Joe, so good to see you here, man.
It's another great event, and we see each other everywhere. It seems like.
Yeah, I know. It's whether it's on like at Cyber Beach out in Starbase, Giga Texas, Fremont sometimes, or
I don't know
and
if people know, but I'm the mayor of Cyber Beach.
yeah. If you didn't know, he actually has an official plaque too. So those that know, if you go to Starbase and you go to the beach, that's called the Cyber Beach. This is the mayor. Well, Joe, let's just start from the beginning. Tell us a little bit about your background, kind of pre Tesla and SpaceX, so that maybe for the people in the audience who are not as familiar with your background can learn more about it.
Okay, well, that's probably a good question. A lot of people ask, why are you doing this, and what was your inspiration, or why do you even care about flying a drone over a factory or watching dirt and all that stuff? And the reason why is that many years ago, I was always interested in space and technology, and I, like many other kids, wanted to be an astronaut, but I really wanted to be one, and I wanted to go through all of the steps. So, I looked for people that would mentor me and try to give me ideas of what to do, and one of them was Frank Borman, who was Apollo 8 astronaut, and he gave me some ideas, and from those ideas, I ended up going to the Air Force Academy, get degrees in astronautical engineering. I wanted to be a pilot, so I followed that route. I went to Ohio State University under an AFIT degree, and I got a master's in aeronautical and astronautical engineering, and of course flew in the Air Force. I, like many other people, just didn't quite get to be the astronaut that I wanted to be, but had a full career in the Air Force and went on from there. So that's kind of my background. Interest in technology has always been there as well, and this kind of belays how old I am. But way back when, before there was GPS, I know that's a shocking thing, but I was always imagining what would it take to make a car drive itself, and what would I do? And the technology at that time was pretty much, put a strip in the road and have it follow it or something like that. So that kind of set the seeds for later on interested in Tesla, because they were trying to do autonomy, and I found that very interesting. One other tidbit, short story, is my mom got too old to be able to drive, so she lost that ability. And she always lamented to me about the loss of her independence. And all she wanted to do was just go to a store or something, nothing dramatic, but she couldn't do that anymore. So it made me realize that having that technology is important for the independence of a lot of people, not just old people, but across the board. But I also knew something from her too, and that was, you have to understand the technology and not be afraid of it and understand how to use it, and she did not at all. So I realized that the solution is a two-set solution, the technology and then the familiarity with it. So that's why I wanted to get my first Tesla, learn about electric cars, learn about autonomy, and that brought me to eventually understanding that, hey, people fly drones over these factories. And Giga Shanghai started off.
Were you flying drones before that at all?
Very little. I just thought it was really a neat way for me to use my background of flying, use my technical background, and also be able to cover something that allowed me to learn more about what I was interested in. So with Shanghai and then Berlin, that kind of inspired me. Giga Texas was announced, went up there, figured out where it was, did a little video with the phone, and ever since then, this is where I'm at. So it's been just incredible. And the relationship that's grown with Tesla has been just remarkable. And it just allowed me to do everything that I'm doing. So that's how I kind of got to where I'm at.
What projects are currently going on at Giga Texas right now? Because I feel like every time I turn on one of your videos, I'm not able to watch every single one, but every week when I'll turn on something or see it on X, there's huge progress. And so it feels like every day, if not every week, there's just something new going on. So what are the current projects going on over there?
Yeah, that's a good question. When I first started, of course, they were building just the factory, and that was what everybody was looking at. And my thought was, well, when they're done with the factory, maybe when they make the Cybertruck, it'll probably be done, because there won't be a whole lot going on. And I very mistaken. Currently, well, first of all, those who saw the construction of the actual factory know just what the effort was. It was enormous, multi-year. They basically did an approach where it was kind of agile, where they were very quick to make changes, updates, and that's fundamental to Tesla, as everybody knows. They also use something called minimum essential capability, which is they Giga Texas is almost like a bunch of little small buildings or structures under a roof. So they built the minimum possible to start building the Model Y and do that as quickly as possible. They also did it where it's kind of bizarre, and a lot of other companies don't do this, is the building was still open. There was heavy rains. There was water coming into the factory, and yet they were putting casting machines in. They were making the stampings. They were doing the body in white. They were building the initial Model Ys, and it's just amazing to see how they did that. And then they closed in the rest of Giga Texas, and it was like an empty box, and then they built for the next several years after that. So today, if you look at the site, there's an almost equal, maybe even larger effort underway right now than just building the main factory. And it's spread out over, the main site is about 2,500 acres. That's about, public math, 800 to 900 hectares, roughly. About half of that is under active construction right now. And the biggest projects underway right now, starting from the north, is something called the North Campus. This is also the Optimus robot factory that is dedicated to building the robots. Their goal right now is about 10 million per year is their run rate once they get up to running. And the way they're approaching this is very agile again. They have a two-phase approach. They have the first part already under construction. The footings are in there, the steel, and they're really moving really quick. Second part, they're already reclaiming the dirt like they had to do the main factory. And probably in the next year and a half to 2 years, it'll be at the point where it can do production. Just south of that is Cortex 2. And it's Cortex 2 because there's Cortex 1. Cortex 1 was an addition to the length of the main building. And that was done a couple of years ago, finished up with the idea of having the computer systems to do the FSD training. That obviously wasn't enough, so they built Cortex 2, and they're in the process of finishing that. Again, agile, two-phase project. They have the first phase done while the second phase is still under construction, and they are already using it to do training for the Optimus. And we know that that's tied into what they're trying to do at Fremont, which is important for that pilot line to start getting the initial batch of Optimus going on. So that is underway. Another project on the far southwest side is a test track that's being put in. And I've had a lot of people ask, why would they put a test track in? What is the point? Everything's going to be autonomous. They don't need it. Well, interesting enough, I actually talked to the person that's in charge of that. It's actually Wes Morrell. I don't know if you know that. But it's
in charge of the track?
Yes, it's
That's
his
cool.
project. He's the guy that was the chief engineer for the Cybertruck. But he's also the project lead for the test track at Giga Texas.
Might need to start asking about the Roadster.
Yeah. Yes. That's probably a good idea.
Yeah, I mean.
I think somebody on an interview here yesterday mentioned something like we might see something in a few weeks.
I think Franz, right?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But
so
yeah, you figure, and I think they're building it in Giga Texas.
they are.
Yeah.
They are. So the new Roadster is a Texan. It's going to be a product from Giga Texas, and they need something to drive it on and do other development. So they have a big test track that's being put in. And then finally, which is sort of the convergence that we're starting to see between Elon's companies, specifically SpaceX and Tesla, is they have, once again, like a two-phase approach. The main approach that they're doing right now is the advanced technology chip development fab that's being built on the east side of Giga Texas, and it's a joint venture between SpaceX and Tesla. And that is going to be the site that designs, builds, tests, iterates, and comes up with the final designs for the AI chips of the future. I think starting with maybe AI 6, maybe AI 7, and then building from there. And all of these chips that are going to be designed are going to be used in every single product that Tesla makes, whether it's cars, whether it's robots, and then the convergence, whether it's orbiting AI data centers or anything else. And then the second phase of that is so big it can't even fit on Giga Texas, and it's going to be to the east of Giga Texas over in Grimes County. At least that's what we think right now. It looks like everything is moving that direction. And if we are to believe what we're hearing, is that factory may be 10 times bigger than Giga Texas. 10 times. That sounds absurd. To me, it sounds absurd. But that is what they have said, and we will see how that goes. So those are the major projects that are going on underway. There are literally hundreds of other projects, smaller projects of various things where they're continuing to build out inside the factory to add more production capability. Roadster's coming there, so there's a lot of equipment that's being put in to build the next production line for there. There are going to be future products there, so they're going to have to modify, update, change the existing product lines to be able to handle those as well. And then, this is totally speculation on my part, but if you look farther into the future of Tesla, there may be more of consolidation of maybe Fremont moves the cars to Texas while they use Fremont for some other new product. So it's not just Texas, it's all of the other factories. Giga Berlin's going to be a big part of this too, Shanghai, everything else. But they're preparing. That's what I say all the time is, if you're going to be interested or you want to see what people are talking about in late 27, 28, what is the big ticket items that you're hearing all the investors talking about, whatever, it's happening right now at Giga Texas, and we're seeing that being put into place. And the effort is just enormous, and the time commitment is huge as well.
So before we kind of get into, I think you were alluding about obviously the Terafab, and it's crazy to think, because Giga Texas, you could literally hold your phone and drive by it and hold it for like a minute.
Right.
So something that's 10x that big is going to be just crazy.
Absurd.
But obviously we're blessed to have the Cybercab outside, right? It's the future of transport, right? The future is autonomous. What are the major constraints and kind of like production issues you see like for the ramp of the Cybercab?
It's a good question. It's kind of a detailed question, but by the way, I'm hoping that the audience will get a chance to ask some follow-up questions as well. But so some of the common things are, one, what is the production capability of the Cybercab? Are they going to be able to ramp? Are they going to be able to produce a lot? And how do they feel about how the production line with the unbox process is working? Related to that is the robotaxi service, and how is it developed? What is happening with that, and what can we expect as we move forward? The reason why I say that is that they're both completely entwined, and here's a couple reasons to think about that. With all the rest of the Tesla models, they build them, they produce them, they put them in a pipeline to customers. Customers buy them, and they get them on the road, and they're driving around. And whether actively through what you're doing or through the behind the scenes gathering data, they're able to collect a ton of training data from every single car that we are all driving, and then that's used to help train full self-driving for the future for all those cars. The Cybercab lacks that. We don't have a customer base. We don't have that pipeline where they exit and all of us buy Cybercabs and driving around to get all that data. So what they have to do right now is that they have the production line, and then simultaneously or parallel to that, they take production ones off and they fit them with a kit with wheels, steering wheels and all, the Farzad edition, if you want to think about it that way. But they do that for several reasons. One of the biggest ones is that they need to artificially build a fleet big enough in a lot of different places to gather the data that's specific to the Cybercab to be able to make sure that their full self-driving is doing what it needs to do. We saw that with the Cybertruck, where there's a big delay while they had to get the data enough to be able to put full self-driving to Cybertrucks. So I think that they have to do that. It's sort of an artificial way of going about that. So that's why we're seeing so much of the production right now looking like they have steering wheels and being shipped all over the country. The second part of that is the Cybercabs have to go somewhere. They have to have, right now it's the robotaxi service for them to go to. So if you think about the robotaxi service and some of the main components or parts of that, simplified, you have the product or the vehicles that could be in the service, and that could be a Cybercab, a Model Y, or whatever. And they have to produce those. That is not a limiting factor for Giga Texas. They could produce whatever. The second part is the autonomy or the full self-driving, and is it able to function, understand the environment, and drive around? And I think they have a pretty good handle on that. There's still some iteration, but I think they're pretty confident in that part too. The third part is the one I think that they're struggling working their way through and is being the limiting factor that affects the production number of Cybercabs, and that is the fleet management, the service, the logistics, the support of all of these vehicles in the service area, whatever that service area may be, and then making sure that it's reliable, wait times are as low as possible. It's something that if you take a robotaxi somewhere, you know that I can get one home and you're not stranded. And the problem with that is, as you continue to expand the area, either like say all of Austin or multiple different cities, is that you have to replicate this fleet management on every single place. And as it gets larger, if you think of a circle, every time it gets a little bit larger in the diameter, the area goes by the square. So it becomes progressively much more difficult. So that is where they're putting a lot of their effort right now. And when they're prioritizing what they're putting into the cybercab, how, like for example, the charging, they have the charger cable. They're prioritizing the service and making sure it's ready to go and cutting out some things that they can add in later so that they can get that deployed. So the battle between making sure the service is ready to go and then having a place for the cybercabs to go so that they can bring up the production line capacity is what is underway right now. And somebody I was talking to earlier said it's sort of like the chicken and the egg, and that's very true. You can't produce much until you have a service, and you can't have a service unless you have the product. So that's what Tesla is working their way through. And that's kind of one of the aspects of the production line and the process that they're using of cybercab in the factory. And there's some other interesting implications of that. We can ask, follow-up questions that I was able to ask them about. And some of them might be surprising when you think about it.
Well, I know, you want to get to the audience, but what I did want to ask is the Terafab announcement happened weeks back. We're seeing, SpaceX and Tesla come together. I mean, it's wild to think 5 years ago, 10 years ago, these companies were two separate different paths, and now it's looking like potential merger. But as you said, right, next year, the year after, the stuff that's happening at Giga Texas, the Terafab, obviously the partnerships with Intel and Samsung, it seems like they're converging more than ever, and it's happening like overnight. What is your thoughts on like where that's headed and all of the stuff that you're covering, whether it's what's happening at Giga Texas or even all of the Starship launches with Ellie in space?
It's a very good question, and the way I think about it is kind of an analogy of, sounds surprising, an iPhone. And what do I mean by that is, an iPhone is basically the sum of parts of many different technologies that all, independently were maturing, whether it's the camera or the screen or the software or the chip or the memory or whatever. And these all matured at a certain state, and then it took somebody like Apple or Steve Jobs to say, hey, we can take all of these various parts and we can put them together in something new. With Elon's companies, we've always known that fundamentally every single one of them in some way supported the Mars mission. And at some point, there was going to be a convergence so that that could happen. And along the way, that opens up a lot of opportunities for many other things. I think we are now in that point where the convergence is happening, and it's being made because things like AI, chips, solar panels, rocket launch, electric vehicles, humanoid robots, all of this are maturing simultaneously at a point where now it's the obvious consolidation or convergence together. And that opens up other synergies too. Like SpaceX has vertically integrated essentially the launch, the satellite, the design process. Tesla has pretty much resolved the electric motors, the batteries, the solar panels, now with the chips and the training and the humanoid robots. All of these are subsets of necessity for us to have an off-world economy. And that would be whether low Earth orbit, whether it would be the moon or Mars or beyond. And uniquely, those two companies, and then if you add Boring Company, had some significant elements to that. Neuralink adds some significant elements to that as well. The XAI part, which is now SpaceX, added elements. And even X has added elements to that whole picture. So that is what I think that's what I'm seeing going on right now. I think it's natural. And there's one other part of that I don't think people are appreciating that is fundamental to all of this working, and that is to make all these technologies happen, to make the products that we're seeing, to make the rockets that we are seeing launching, you have to have a supply base, you have to have a logistics base of which to build on. And that logistic base, in this case, needs to be able to support both Earth and off-Earth economy. And with what they've been doing with electric motors, batteries, solar panels, and everything that I mentioned, all of those in slightly different forms can actually function perfectly well off Earth. So it positions a SpaceX, Tesla, whatever you want to call it, in a very unique position to be able to actually make all of the things that we've heard and the dreamed of, moon bases and everything, literally happen. And you can't do that without the supply base, and the supply base is already being built right in front of our eyes with all of the products that they're making.
So I think we wanted to open it to the audience. So Gary, you want to come grab? Do we want to? Should I just pass out the mic? Yeah.
Thanks, John.
No problem.
Hey, Joe. Couple of questions. The first one would be basically, did you ever get in trouble early on with the flying? And I know that Starbase has no-fly zones just because of the security aspect, but currently in the past with regards to getting in trouble.
Okay, good question. And it's actually been a long time since we've had kind of those issues. But early on, there was some concern areas about whether or not we could fly. And when I say we, I mean the Quad Squad. At that time for Giga Texas, there was basically 4 of us that did a lot of the flying. And because Giga Texas they were doing so many large scale things, it was really easy to see by the drone. So it had 4 of us. One of us, but not me, actually did get in trouble in the sense that he was flying in a way that he probably shouldn't, too close to things and all that. So, and the security at the time was pretty new. It was all contract security, just watching dirt, so forth. So there was a concern about whether we should or could fly, so we reached out at the time via Twitter, and we were able to get Elon Musk to specifically say, no, that's fine. You guys have permission to do that, but work with our people, and we come up with certain requirements and restrictions and guidelines of what we could or could not do. And from that point, we were able to build a really amazing relationship where there was like a synergistic effect between our flying and what the security was doing, our flying what the contractors were doing. Tesla started realizing that the drone flights and the videos, especially since we were doing in 4K and in different areas, gave them a view of the site under construction that they didn't have any other way. So they actually used it in all of their meetings, their weekly meetings and their update meetings and stuff. And then it can just continue to grow from that point to the point where I think we built a lot of trust with Tesla, and as the other drone pilots, for whatever reason, kind of stopped flying life and everything, it kind of came down to me at Giga Texas. And I think because they gave us guidelines which we followed, I built like an airspace plan with the obstacles and minimum safe altitudes, all the things that you would do for flying to make sure that we did it safely and we didn't disrupt in the operations. And they knew that certainly I wasn't trying to do anything to make harm. I was actually trying to help. I think they saw that there was value in it, so that the relationship has grown really good. 2 other parts of the equation. One is Giga Texas is under the Class C airspace of International Airport, at least partially. So I do get FAA clearance for every single flight. It's like a geofenced area, both altitude, horizontally, and date and time. And so that way I am actually legal with the FAA. And then Tesla has been, very recently they decided to start a new program. I'm kind of like the test of it, that may be expanding out to all the other sites. But we now have a formal process that I ask for permission to fly each flight. They grant it. And I just tell them when and where I'm going to fly. They can use that to, if there's something they don't want me to see, they could say, hey, can you just not go over this area? The flip side has actually been true in the past, where they said, we're having a problem with, and a good example was a contractor that wasn't providing construction lighting in a dark area of the site. Can you please fly early over that area so we can use your footage to talk to the contractor to get lights? And it works. So it's been back and forth, and I think that, again, that's just represents that trust in the relationship that has built up.
Thanks. My second question was, I had the benefit of visiting Gigafactory 2 in Buffalo, and they had just ramped up the what they called Project Eagle, which is the solar panel product that is quite revolutionary. And I think, John, you went to that launch for the solar panel project. I could see, even though that's their initial production line for the solar panel, that was not adequate enough for what's needed for all the solar generation or solar panel sales and generation needed. And so it was sort of anticipated that a second factory would be created for that. And do you have any insights on whether or not that would be part of this Giga campus or somewhere near Bastrop?
I do have insights onto that, and this leads into the question of, is SpaceX and Tesla going to merge together? And the reason why I say that is about 15 miles to the east of Giga Texas is a small spot called Bastrop. And Bastrop has a Starlink factory. It has the Boring Company, has XAI headquarters, and it used to have the X headquarters or the X address, so they have a Texas address. They have the Hyperloop Plaza and the Boring Bodega. They're also building a gigantic solar cell, solar panel factory, and it is absolutely enormous. And I don't know what the capacity is, but I can tell you from a construction standpoint, they've chosen to use all concrete columns and the structure itself. So it looks to me like it's going to be quite large, and I don't know what the output's going to be, but it's going to support, in this case, the AI data centers that are going to be orbiting. Now, that's not quite your answer, your question, because I think you're thinking residential, but I think it all comes together that they're going to have this gigantic factory that's well underway for construction, just a few miles away from Giga Texas. In fact, a lot of things are just a few miles from Giga Texas now in Austin.
Great, thanks.
Hi, Joe. What kind of drone are you flying? Is it a Mavic 3, Mavic 4, something like this? Or
It's a good question. I am flying a DJI Air 3, and it's not the latest, greatest, but it is an amazing drone when it comes to stability, controllability, the optics. It has two lenses. One of them is a 70 millimeter optical zoom, which means I don't have to use digital, which means I get amazingly clear shots just through the drone itself. If I went to, say, like a Mavic 3 or a 4 or whatever, some of those have a 166 millimeter lens, but that is so powerful that I have to be so far away, it wouldn't make sense. So the 70 millimeter makes a really good compromise. And if you've seen my videos, you can see the quality that I get. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to do is provide is quality. I don't want to have fuzzy pictures or whatever. So it really helps with that. The other thing is it's got a lot of performance. So it can handle a lot of the winds. And because of the distances at Giga Texas, people may not know, but one flight that I finish up to do one video is over 20 miles of flying on the drone. And it takes me about 2.5 hours to do. And with the battery life on that, it takes usually 4 batteries, sometimes 5, depending on what I'm doing and how the conditions are. The colder it is, the more windy it is, then the more battery it uses. That also forces me to change a little bit of the approach that I do. A constraint that I have on the DJI drones is that I cannot video or take pictures at the same time. So I have to do one or the other. So the colder it is, the more windy it is, or the combination of that. You'll notice in my videos that I have different paths and I have more transitions in my video. That's because I'm having to stop, take pictures, and go. Normally, I can go out and take the pictures first, scan the area, figure out what's going on, and then I can make the videos longer themselves. So if you watch my videos, it'll tell you, you can see right off the bat, was it windy and cold or not? But overall, it's a great all-around performance drone.
and I see a lot of those high voltage power lines. Did you ever crash your drone, or were you lucky?
I have never crashed a drone at all. Some of the other quad squad guys did. Those power lines Jack Farrington hit, and I could see it happening in his video. It's one of his earlier ones, but he was kind of like sweeping along, trying to focus on something, and you can tell that the situational awareness is not there, and he just ran right into it. A couple of the other ones landed on the factory. They landed out in where the electrical switch yard is now, to the north of the factory. They've crashed into other parts too. And one of the funnier ones is another one of the Quad Squad guys, early on when it was just flat dirt, he had a Mini, and the Mini's okay, but it's not great for performance. And he was on the north side of the site. The wind was coming from the north to the south. He flew it all the way to the south, turned around and tried to come back. And of course, he couldn't make it back. So his brilliant idea, and when I say brilliant, if you've ever fly, you understand how the atmosphere works and what winds do. He decided to go higher and fly straight into the wind, and he ended up being flown to the on the other side of the Colorado River onto the Sandhill Energy Plant. So, but I have not, and you know, you asked about the power lines. One of the first things I did with an airspace plan is came up with min-safe altitudes in certain areas. So for me, my min-safe altitude where the power lines is 200 feet AGL, which would be what is that? 60 meters, 65 meters, something like that. So for me, I just know where I'm at, and I also do line of sight. So I'm moving around a lot, so I know where I'm at, what the conditions are, and it gives me another advantage, and that is even if the drone's over there doing something, I can still see what's going on around me, and there may be something interesting developing, and I can bring the drone back for that.
Hi, Joe, and thank you so much for your great videos. I've been following you since it was sand and gravel.
Back when dirt was sexy.
Exactly. That's how nerdy I am too. The Harold Green Road, you have been projected it several times. Now the Optimus factory is in the way of the initial. Do you have any thoughts about if they're going to build it, or if the River Road is going to actually do what the Harold Green Road was supposed to do?
Yeah, that's a good question. For those who aren't familiar, the way Giga Texas is sort of outlined or laid out is you have the main factory, and then over towards the north you have the Cortex 2, the die shop, and the battery cathode plant, and then to the north of that is where they're building the new Optimus factory. And in the field that the Optimus factory is going to be built has been permitted, and even sent out documents to the local residents that was where the new Harold Green Road is going to go. Harold Green Road is the original one, was replaced with Tesla Road. And so because of the history of the area and Harold Green, they want to rebuild it. This also highlights another issue. It goes to that agile project management, construction management that I mentioned. It is very often the case where permits are filed, and then they're rescinded, and then they're changed, and they're rescinded, and then it goes on and on. And so that's why sometimes I'll tell you, this is what's going on, and then a little later I'll say, well, now it's changed. That's because that's actually what's happening. It really is changing. Yeah. So Harold Green Road, where it's going to be, its configuration itself has multiply changed. And again, it's going to be changing because of the Optimus factory. But what I understand is it's still desired. Very recently in one of the county meetings, for property and everything, it was listed as still Harold Green Road to be put up there, but the actual design is now TBD. So I think they want to see what's happening with the construction site and then put it in. One of the other reasons why they want it, besides the historical value, is that they need something to connect the toll road, State Highway 130, which kind of runs down the middle of the site, to the housing community to give them another exit. So that need and that desire is still there, but the configuration is changing right now.
Thanks. One extra question is, since you have been working together with Tesla, are you allowed to go on the property, and so you have the line of sight better now since you are going when you go to the Lone Tree Field or something like that? Yeah.
I am actually, as part of the previously, I didn't, because I know where I could be and all that stuff. But under the new rules, that's now sort of a prototype. I've designated, and we've talked about, and we've coordinated specific areas that I can go. And as long as I go to those areas and do my stuff and everything, then I'm free to do that. I don't even have to check in. They know. I mean, there's cameras everywhere. They know where I'm at. They know where everybody's at. So the people that keep asking me, hey, I'm going to go to Giga Texas. Can I just drive on to Giga Texas? No, and they will know that you're there, and they will ask you to leave. But because of the pre-designated areas, there's various places I can go to help specifically with the line of sight, and also the fact that the construction site itself is just growing. It's growing so big. It's becoming it's becoming difficult for me to cover it in a video. And so I'm kind of trying to figure out, should I break the site into 2 parts? But I know that if I do that and do, one day I do this half and this side the other half, I know that if I do that, then I will get a lot of viewers going, but you didn't look at this, or why did you miss that? Or, so it's still something I'm going to try to figure out, but being able to be on the site helps.
Hi, Joe. Uh, I met you in 2 years or even more when you've been doing the nice drone views. My question is, do you, as a mayor of Sunny Beach, do you go there often? And do you know what's the future of the Sunny Beach and the whole space area? There are rumors that it will be closed for the public. Then, do you know, and can you tell us something more?
I can definitely do that. In fact, I'm the one that told everybody what was being closed off. So yeah, I am there fairly often. Pretty much try to go there. I have been there for every launch except for one, but I have live streamed them all, and I continue to do that with Alien Space. As I mentioned before, space is actually my background, so I'm much more comfortable talking space stuff than I am with Giga Texas stuff. But I am there often. There's a lot of community that goes down there, especially the Tesla community. It's called Cyber Beach because there's a lot of Cybertruck owners that like to go there, camp out, and hang out. And we've done light shows on the beach with the rocket behind us, and SpaceX guys often come out, will help us. One of the things I want to see in the future is Starbase has got one of the largest populations of Cybertrucks now. So it'd be really cool to have a gigantic light show. As far as what is the future of the beach, the area around the launch site, and Starbase, that's a very good question. I will start it off by saying, if you've ever thought about going to Starbase, do it as soon as you can. And it's the most unique place in the world that you can ever go. You can see rockets that are the biggest that have ever been built from a distance that you won't believe, and they will be launching the next day. It is unlike anything else. But it is also becoming a critical part of the United States space policy, space program, the NASA program, and SpaceX itself. It's going to be a critical infrastructure thing. So we are seeing the public access starting to erode, and it's only natural. And I actually, even though I'm bummed about it, I support it because of the importance of it. It's part of it is because of enforcement of areas. So the south side of the launch site area, which kind of goes towards Mexico, they've now doubled the size land area that they can construct on of the launch site. And all that's being developed with tank farms, natural gas to methane conversion, and a bunch of other stuff. So that has physically moved things back anyway. So the places we used to walk is now in the middle of what is a construction site. And then now from there beyond and in all directions around there is a wildlife bird sanctuary that is rigorously patrolled, and you can no longer go there. And that includes all of the media and photographers that have normally provided footage of the launches. So like NSF, they have had to move quite a ways away. They're relying on Zoom cameras. Many of the other channels, like What About It or Everyday Astronaut, Cosmic, Consider Cosmic or whatever, IGW, all the other ones, they've had to relocate their cameras to completely different areas. So if you've been watching any of the space stuff, you'll notice the angles have changed, and that's because they can no longer put the cameras where they did before. And the second part of that is that they are, as much as Giga Texas is building, Starbase is building like crazy too. And the basic building of structures, these gigantic structures, serves as giant walls. And so the things that we used to be able to see and take for granted, the rings coming out, stacking of the ships and the booster, hey, there's this section of it, so we know exactly where ship whatever is going to be. Those days are virtually over, or very soon. The Giga Bay is part 1 of 4 phases. And what I mean by that is phase 1 is going to allow for 24 workstations for ships and boosters. The current 2 mega bays is basically 10, and it's really cramped, so I don't know if they can actually use all 10 of them. So they're more than doubling it with just phase 1. Once phase 1 is complete, they will demo the mega bays and build another 24. And then when they go to phase 2 and 3, it'll double again. So when it is finally completed, at least the one at Starbase, I think the one at Kennedy Space Center may be similar. It will be bigger than the VAB at Kennedy Space Center.
Hi, Joe. Halim from the Netherlands. I've been touring to Fremont and also Giga Texas. Do you know if there's any plan for Tesla to also have like experience center? Because it's always difficult to find a place where you can come and visit and learn more about the company.
Yeah, so at Giga Texas, the plan is and has been that they want to do more public access. They do recognize that there's a high demand. They do recognize that the design of Giga Texas is not ideal for bringing the public in. So they do want to address that. Part of it is a matter of prioritization. As I've already mentioned, there's a lot of big projects going on right now. You may not know this, but for example, the roads that are built around Giga Texas they have a dedicated team that works for Tesla that does that work. So they are kind of bandwidth limited to some degree. But they do want to do a welcome center. They've just recently put in a direct delivery center, and so you can take delivery of your Tesla. Even if it's not a Tesla built there, they can actually make it so that you could pick up, say, well, if there's still a Model S out there, whatever, you could still pick it up. The test track is obviously something that they will use for development, but it is very possible, and we'll see how things develop, but it's very possible that they might have that available for some of the public. And then just north of where the direct delivery center is where they have multiple permits that as recently as just before I came here have been updated to show that they do want to put a large welcome center in to allow for more of the public interaction. As far as more tours of the factory, that's something else they would like to do, but as much of the construction that we're seeing on the outside, there's almost equal amount going on the inside. The amount of permits that I see for just adding on or changing inside the factory is hundreds and hundreds a month. I mean, it's not small. So it's a bit of, they need to make it safe for the public. They need to have something that the public can see, and they need to be able to address the volume of people that are coming through while they're also adding in new products. So they may not want people to see. So it's a challenge, but they do want to do it.
Hey, Joe. I have 2 questions. First is short. When next Starship launch?
It's a very good question. It's a function of a couple of things. Right now, Booster 20 just went out to Massey's for its first cryogenic run, and hopefully that goes well. Maybe they learn from Booster 18, and it'll stay together, and then after that, it'll have to go back to get the motors and then ready for a static fire campaign. Ship 40 has already had this cryo. I know that the Raptor vacuums and the sea level Raptors are already being installed, so we may see that coming up pretty soon. If it goes through a normal testing campaign, I would say maybe 3 to 3.5 more weeks for that all to happen. So that puts us in July already. After that, there were some smaller damages or things that they didn't like at the orbital launch site that they're addressing. So they need to make sure that goes all the way through. So that some of that can be done concurrently, some of it maybe go a bit longer. So we're already talking July. The big thing that is overhanging them and is a little bit of an unknown is because Booster 19 did not do its boost back correctly and it impacted into the Gulf, even though it was in the restricted area, it did not fulfill the mission as planned. There is a FAA mishap investigation going on that. And the way it basically works is SpaceX looks for the root causes, they come up with mitigations, and then they present it to the FAA, and the FAA may ask them questions, and then they'll say, okay, if you're good, we'll go. The thing I'm encouraged on that is that Blue Origin, after their, not the blow-up one, but the flight before that when they lost the upper stage, they did a mishap investigation, and it was completed in 1 month, which is shockingly fast. So if that continues, and if the support for space flight and the links to the Artemis program hold, they might be able to get that approval, say, by mid to end of July. If that happens and everything else folds up, we might be looking at something maybe early August to September. And I say September because I've heard some stuff on inside. If they do it on early August and it all goes well, then Flight 14 will probably be into September or October, which might be really good for X Takeover. And just one other little bit of tidbit is there was internal debate whether or not they were going to try to do 14 at Kennedy Space Center or not, and they've pretty much decided they're going to do it at Starbase.
Okay, second question.
You said that was a short one.
Yeah. Yeah, my question was short, you know. So, anyways, so due to the Blue Origin incident, how will that affect SpaceX? Might they win over some of the contracts that Blue Origin had?
It's a good question. There's always a lot of parts to that question. The first question is, with the Blue Origin failure of the booster and the upper stage on the, they call it a hot fire, which I don't like the term because they're always hot fire. It's a static fire because you don't want it to go anywhere, you hope. But with that failure and the damage that it did to the whole site, even though they're being very optimistic and they're saying that they're going to put all hands on deck, they're going to do anything they can, they're going to try to launch again by the end of this year, I would not be surprised if it's not middle of next year. So that is going to start having some pretty significant effects to the Artemis program, specifically Artemis 3, which is planned for sometime 2027. I would suspect now it's going to slip to the later part of 2027 to build time. And whether or not Blue Origin can get back together and be able to have their lander and a launch system sufficient for them to do the multiple rendezvous for Artemis 3, it's a big question. Will contracts be moved over to SpaceX? We have a precedent of that happening with ULA because ULA has been having its problem with the Vulcan, and Space Force has gotten pretty upset with them, so they've basically been moving payloads over to SpaceX and the Falcon 9 to launch, and that's been fairly successful. The only problem is that the payloads were on adapters that were suitable for both rockets, and it worked out pretty well, and the fairings worked out pretty well. To do the same with Blue Origin, maybe some of the contracts where it has to with government might be suitable, maybe. But as far as anything with Artemis, it's really designed to go on New Glenn, to be honest. And with the interfaces, the fact that the upper stage is hydrogen, so that's different than what SpaceX uses, the size of the fairings. I think that the only real solution is to just try to accelerate them as much as possible and do whatever training they can and hope for the best, something that's as safe as possible to try to make Artemis 3 work. The last part of your question is will it put the pressure or more expectation on SpaceX? And I think that's really the thing. I've always believed that SpaceX is the one that's going to get us to the moon and probably do it virtually by itself. I think this is enforcing that that's what's going to happen. The fact that on the last flight, one of the things that they highlighted was the lunar Earth link of Starlinks or whatever, moon links, what do you want to call it, suggests that SpaceX has already got that in plan. So they would have the communication suite, they would have the lander, they would have the rocket launch system, they'd have the orbital refilling, which is the critical part. With Axiom, they have the spacesuits, they have everything. In fact, the Starship itself, the HLS landing on the moon, is already the base. So I think that's what's likely going to happen, or at least the chances are pretty high.
Hello, Arnaud from France. Just wanted to know if you're corresponding with a person doing the same as you do in America on Giga Berlin?
Well, my inspiration for Giga Berlin was Tobias Lind and also the Wolfpack brothers. And what they were doing inspired me to do what I'm doing. The only thing that I tried to add to it was what is going on, the information, because I am always curious and I want to know why are they building that, and so I figure I might as well tell you, and so that's why I speak a lot on there too. But yes, I have had interaction with them over the years, and when I go to Giga Berlin next Thursday, I've arranged to have them go on the tour with me.
Thank you.
So I think that's a lot of the questions. My personal question is, what is your favorite thing to fly over for Texas right now? I mean, I've done some flyovers over at Fremont, but obviously that's not changing much. But at Texas, what is your favorite thing to fly over?
Well, probably the thing that most people are really, really interested in, and is kind of a challenge because it's always developing, is what cars are showing up in the outbound lot, what are exiting the factory, how much are they exiting, where are they driving, like early days in the Cybertruck or with the Cybercab when you'd see them doing the test runs and stuff. Sometimes I'd abandon my flight to go chase them down. That can be kind of fun, but I try to do it as respectfully as possible. But it just gives the products in a different light that you see them moving and doing something. And it's not just the fact that, oh, there's a Cybercab driving around and all that, but it actually helps, I think, the community to understand what the product is. How is it developing? Is it real? Is it not? Is it behind? Is it whatever? Because you hear a lot of stuff, Cybercab is delayed. It'll never happen, whatever. And then I show videos of it driving in a lot. And to me, that's kind of fun because it's kind of like, I'm showing you right here what's actually happening despite what everybody's saying. So to me, that's what's kind of fun.
What are you most excited about as far as projects? So I think we'll close with this, but what project are you most excited about that they're building right now that you get to cover?
You mean Tesla or all of it?
All of it.
Well, you know that I was in the Air Force and I was a pilot and I was a tanker pilot. And tankers are kind of like the flying gas stations. But what they really do is, for the United States, what they've done is they've changed the entire equation for our military. Instead of being a coastal defense, very short range kind of operation, other than yes, I know the Navy and the carriers and all that, but without tankers, we really don't have a global Air Force. We can't force project. And it has really transformed how that works. For space, orbital refilling is absolutely critical, and without it, Starship is a low Earth orbit, minimally useful rocket, even if it's reusable, because it can carry stuff up. It has to, the tyranny of the rocket equation kills us because about 97% of the mass that you start with is expended or gone with fuel or whatever, and your payload is maybe 3%. If you're lucky, if you get super efficient, maybe 4%. So for us to be able to do the Artemis program, lunar program, go to Mars, send stuff interplanetary, make a lunar economy, be able to do plane change maneuvers, different orbits and all that, we must have orbital refilling. And it is that essential. So I am super excited to see not only the tanker variants and the system necessary for the rendezvous and the transfer of propellant, but also the depots and then the operational, kind of like the fleet management for robotaxis, but the same thing for orbital missions and the orbital refilling. I am super excited to see that because with that, we can then do all of the things that we've heard about. I certainly heard about as a kid of all of the space ideas and the dreams that we had. So to me, that is essential.
All right, so first we have to do a selfie with the crowd. All right. Here, it's like. All right, so, and second, Joe, just thank you so much for what you are doing for the community. I mean, I don't think I've seen someone have such a diverse coverage of just Tesla and SpaceX like you do. And as you know, I mean, just you're talking 20 miles of coverage and just all the stuff happening with SpaceX. You can get lost in all of the information, and I think it's just important to bring to life and allow people to kind of see the progress slowly and really kind of dumb it down for people. So you can just see it, right? You can step 2 feet and everyone wants a selfie. It's just because it offers a huge resource to the community. So thank you. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
One last thing. I want to say thank you very much to the Austria Tesla Club for putting on an amazing Takeover Europe event. and for inviting me over. I very much appreciate it. Also, all the time that we spent driving in robo-taxis, it was a lot of fun. So thank you very much. And to answer your question at the beginning, did I fly here? Just so you know, I've flown approximately 60,000 miles on a drone. So I think I could have done it.
Great stuff. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.